Hi folks, I'm Ed. This is backroadhero. I am a serial car collector. Have been buying and selling for the last 30 years or thereabouts. I've made most of the mistakes that you can make, and I've learned from them. This is merely my process that I use to buy a used car, whether it be at auction privately or through a dealer. It seems to work for me. It's not the only way, but I just thought I'd share some advice. If you've any advice of your own to give, please drop a comment below. If you've got any other top tips for any others. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the video. Hi guys, I'm Ed and this is backroadhero. Well, if you followed my little video about the Range Rover that we bought and the issues that we had, we threatened to use your legal rights under the Consumer Rights Act 2015 in order to return the car to get it fixed. Now, we hadn't intended on making that video, but after we'd bought the car off the dealer, we found that there were a couple of major issues that we needed rectified. So the feedback I got on that video made me think about really putting together some sort of a guide, a generic guide about how I go about buying a used car. The checks that I do before I go and buy it. I'm going to talk about the preliminary stuff that you can do. You can check out the MOT history going all the way back to about 2005 if it's on the system. We're going to check a valuation as to whether the car has been valued really keenly or whether they're being a bit cheeky with that. And finally, we'll look at a way of checking whether the car has been written off, it's got no dodgy history lurking in there, whether it's got any outstanding finance, which you may actually inherit should you buy the car and it's not cleared. I'm going to talk about what to look for, how to check it all out when you actually get to see the car. Then, using all that previous knowledge, we'll talk about how to negotiate the best deal. And finally, what happens when it all goes wrong and your rights under the Consumer Rights Act 2015. So let's get started on that due diligence. So the pre-viewing checks, really, really important before you go and waste your time and the person selling the car to do your due diligence before you go and see the vehicle. My pre-viewing checks involve checking the MOT history of the car, checking the valuation, and then doing an HPi check to see whether it's got any outstanding finance or whether it's been written off. Then I'll have a good look at the description. I'll print it out before I go and actually see the car and make sure that the description matches the vehicle that you're actually viewing. So let's have a look at those four things. So with the MOT history, you can look at the history of the car and build up a picture of how well it's actually been looked after. So let's start there. So this is a UK-wide buyer's guide. All I have done in Google is gone MOT history, Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is one of those little quirks. It's obviously where I'm from, so that's why I know things are slightly different there. You can check the MOT valid online to see whether it's got a valid MOT. But what you cannot check is the MOT history online, and it's this little section here. You can't check it, past results online, but if you asked for the MOT history, past results for vehicles tested in Northern Ireland, then you could email the DVA customer services team, and there it is, dva.customerservices@infrastructure-ni.gov.uk. For England, Scotland and Wales, you can check the previous history of a car. So let's go to MOT history, MOT vehicle check, see if it comes up, and there you go. So check the MOT status of a vehicle. It's not the status that you want, it's the history of a vehicle. So there you go, check the MOT history of a vehicle. We'll start it now. So valid in England, Scotland and Wales. So let's look at a random car. Again, let's look at my Alpha. Probably not the best example, but there you go. So you'd expect nothing much, but look, lo and behold, unknown to me before I owned the car, it failed because a headlamp aim was too high. So, you know, even a new car there you can see. So let's go something a bit older. Let's look at the 7 Series, the backroadhero car that I bought at auction not that long ago. There it is, BMW 740, registered in 1996. MOT was valid, and it was done just before the auction, and that's always a great way to sell a car. When I was going to look at the car, I knew I had to check out the condition of the brake discs. It's a monitor and repair. It failed on the same day, on the same mileage there on the 13th of January because of wiper blades or wipers. I've got to look at possible damage on the windscreen unless it had been replaced since 2010. I doubt that very much, and in fact when I went to inspect it was a little stone chip. So this car was off the road for 12 years. I knew that, hence obviously the slightly lower mileage. And subsequently I found there was a start fault, so it's been rectified, but that may well be the reason that it was off the road. You just never know the circumstances. All the way through back, and I believe back until 2005 or 2006 is where you're going to get the history all the way back. It also verifies mileage, so that's the MOT history. So now we'll have a look at a valuation. Now, a great place to start here is just a straightforward Autotrader. Autotrader UK, new and used cars. But if you go up to here, not to value your car, go to sell your car. And this is a great one. Get an instant offer, you don't want that one. You want to create your advert. So let's have a look at my Alfa Romeo. Find the details. So there it is, Alfa Romeo Giulia, petrol, saloon in blue, yes, that's me. And then I hit the button, next step, and it reckons if I was going to sell it privately, I would advertise it at 39,540 based on the valuation of 38,640. So it's giving you a little bit of wiggle room, as they call it, in on that. So I'd be advertising it at 39.5, looking for 38.5. Now, this is a good figure to have as well. It's 2,600 more than a part exchange or quick sale websites. So you know if you go back down to trade your car in, you're going to be somewhere in the region. Now, that being said, you can probably expect that a dealer is probably going to add that onto that price, and you're up at 42,000-ish. So if I was going to sell this car, I would look to be trading it in at what did I say, 37 grand, and sending it out again at 42 or thereabouts. So it just gives you some sort of idea of what the real value is. If someone's advertising this car for 45 grand, then they're being a bit optimistic, but you know there may well be a little bit of wiggle room in it, because dealers don't bring in cars over and above the valuations. It just doesn't make sense. The profit margin on a car, of course, is what you bring it in at, not necessarily what you're trying to sell it for. So this is just a little HPi app that's readily downloaded. If you do nothing else except for one thing and going to pick up a used car, do this one thing. You can see the number of cars I've checked over the while. Let's have a little look at the BMW I bought recently. Really important to know whether this car is marked as stolen or written off. Let's have a look at the insurance claim history. No records of a write-off. Any outstanding finance, because of course you inherit the finance on a car that you buy if it's not cleared. Mileage verification along with MOT checks as well. And some cars give valuations. This one unfortunately is just a little bit too old. Cost of ownership gives you an idea of what the vehicle tax is and the consumption, and then what actually is it. So there you go. If you've done nothing else, spend the 15 quid or thereabouts getting an HPi check. So now, having done your MOT history check, having looked at a valuation through Autotrader, and having finally done your HPi check, and then finally printing off the description, that forms part of your contract. check the description, because that's what you are signing up for, especially from a main dealer. A lot of guys, myself included, copy and paste a lot of stuff, especially if you're selling similar models of the same car. And it's up to you to ask. It may well have air conditioning, it might not. It's up to you to check the specification that's been advertised actually in the car. So having done all of that, you want to go and view the vehicle. Now, the best bit of kit that I can advise you to go and get is an OBD reader. Cars of the era from 2001 or thereabouts is when the standard OBD2 connections, normally under the dash, were brought in. I use a little dongle, it fits in my pocket. This isn't a suggestion to buy, I'm just telling you what I actually use. That combined with your mobile phone will give you all the information. More importantly, it'll tell you if the check engine light has been reset recently. And in most cars, it'll give you the amount of mileage and the amount of time that has been reset. So cars generally, though, would be reset as a matter of course during normal servicing. So if you've seen the service history, the check engine light cleared in that, it may be a red flag, but it may just be as a general part of servicing. So on the walk around, what are the things that give away the good and the bad cars? Well, it's general overall condition. But I'm generally looking at kind of big cost items in the hundreds of pounds that are going to take a lot to rectify. I'm looking for repairs. Just because a car has been repaired doesn't necessarily mean to say I would walk away from that, but you need to know that's what you're buying in the first place, and you might want to check a little bit deeper, because outside panels can cover a whole multitude of sins. I'm generally looking at big ticket items. Are the tyres all matching? Are they branded tyres? Are the brakes good? Is there a pronounced lip? What is the condition of the brake pads? These are all things that if you've got your little torch, you can have a look around and see. Now, it really depends on the age of the car and the mileage as to what you can reasonably expect for a vehicle. Are there some good premium wiper blades on there? Are there good Bosch ones? Or is this an owner that's still maintains premium parts on a vehicle, even though it's got a little bit older? And that's always nice to know. Do the number plates front and rear match? Are they the original supplying dealer? Is there a sticker in the rear window? Can you tell from the previous history who the supplying dealer was, and do the number plates match there? Now, a lot of dealers, of course, will put on their own plates as part of advertising, but it's always nice to see, is there a new one on the front and an old one on the back? For example, would that lead you up the path of, is this car had a frontal collision because it's got a brand new number plate on there? Certain cars, the likes of 911s, have a build sticker in under the bonnet. Volkswagen Audis tend to have them a sticker somewhere in the rear compartment where the spare wheel is. If they're there, the chances are that those panels have never been tampered with and it hasn't been in any accident damage. Looking at things like chassis legs at the front, so get your torch out and have a good look down there. Check that everything isn't either brand new and shiny and painted, or can you see any chinks in the armour there to suggest that it's had any collision damage? You might look for overspray. Overspray is a terrible thing for the paint industry, and it's really, really difficult to keep under control, especially under those sort of cheaper repairs that cars may well be done to get them through the sales process. It's also little things. Has the cigarette lighter been ever used? Is there a smoker? Is there evidence of pets? Don't forget to look under the car. That's probably the best bit of advice that I can give you. Get on your knees, bring a piece of cardboard or a little mat, lie down and actually get your torch and shine it under the car. Is there any evidence of leakage, especially oil and fluids transferring down the base of the car towards the rear, being blown along by the wind as you drive along, all things like that. They are very cheap parts to buy, but very, very expensive to actually install, especially when you're taking manifolds, etc. off. Have a look at the oil. Nobody likes mayonnaise, as we call it in the trade. That's oil in the water and water in the oil. If you take off the cap and it looks like a creamy mess, then walk away. The head gasket is gone, or there's some sort of leakage in there, and it's just a nightmare to fix. So that's certainly one I would walk away from. Have a look at the colour of the brake fluid. If it's a nice light yellowy kind of urine colour, then it's kind of been replaced most recently. So if it's a darker colour, like someone with maybe liver function issues, then consider the cost and actually replacing the brake fluid. But that's a good indication as to whether someone has done that or not. Fluid's really only good every 2 years, and in fact, if I'm racing, I'll do it even more than that. But that's also a good indication of how the car has actually been looked after. Want to check for noises and rattles, if it sounds as if it's what they call tappity. But generally speaking, you're looking for a nice quiet engine with no rattles and noises untoward. It should be smooth. You can put your hand on it and check whether it's misfiring or not. But it's general overall condition there. You might want to get inside, turn it to full cold, and check the air conditioning. Now, air conditioning is inhibited at very low temperatures because you don't want freezing moisture in the system, especially at the cooler end of things. But you can put your hand on the tubes. You can see that one is cold and one is slightly warmer going in towards the bulkhead. And you can also shine a torch and look at the air conditioning compressor and see whether it's actually rotating. Most cars do pre-checks on the whole thing, but the final one is if the compressor is actually enabled and switched on, that there's a chance it'll be working. You might not get a chance to check the pressure in the system, but you can certainly check whether it's actually doing its job or not. Finally, look at the number of keys that the car is supplied with. Car should have pretty much at least 2. You'll always need a spare key, and they can be anywhere between £100 or £1,000, depending on the type of car. We were quoted up to £1,000 to add a key into a 2010 Range Rover, so just be very, very careful about that. So on to the paperwork. So you've had a check around, you're happy with the condition of the car, it's not leaking like your great Aunt Laura, and all the fluids are the correct colour like a healthy individual, and there's no mayo in your oil. So now this is the exciting stuff for me. I know my wife hates that, but I get excited by paperwork. I don't know why. I like old history. So under the Data Protection Act, officially in Europe, you're not allowed to supply the previous owner's details and all the rest of it. So a lot of main dealers will actually remove the paperwork from the car. That's old receipts and stuff like that. You should still have a service book, and if not, you'll have an electronic. They went electronic a long time ago, sort of Mercedes, BMW, Mazda, etc. all got electronic logbooks. So you'll be either phone up the main dealer, or a decent seller will have a copy of all the bits and pieces that are there. Check the VIN number, really important. It's pretty much always on the windscreen. It's dotted various other places around the car if you know where to look for. Every manufacturer has different ways of putting them and stamping them into the chassis. If you know where to look, then you can check for the secondary ones, but certainly the windscreen is the major one to go for. You're looking for ringers at this point, that's what they call them, cars that are masquerading as something else. So this may well be a stolen vehicle. The VIN number, the vehicle identification number, is stamped in there, and it should match the paperwork on the V5. Check the service history. As far as your next step that goes, Check that it's not due a cambelt service. You need to know whether it's actually a cambelt engine or not. It might not be, it might be on timing change, in which case it's less of an issue. But in that particular case, you're checking for rattles from the timing chain tensioners when you run the engine, and check it all over. So you've checked the car out, you've done your due diligence, you know exactly what you should be paying for the car. You've checked it all out, that it matches the paperwork, you've checked the service history, you've had a test drive, and during that test drive you've checked things like full lock and no nasty noises. You've checked that the brakes work, you've checked that all the gears and selections work, you've checked all the electronics, all the buttons, are the electric windows working, is all the central locking working, etc, etc. So get everything done and in order. So then it's time to go back and have a chat, a quick chat. So the first rule of negotiation is that you know what the car has been advertised for. You'll also know the valuation from Autotrader as to what you would reasonably expect to pay for that car privately. You know what it's roughly valued for, but you know that a dealer has got to make a profit. He's also got to put a warranty on the car, and some warranties are better than others. So I'll get onto that a little bit later on about putting an aftermarket warranty on your car, irrespective of whether it's been bought by a dealer or not. A warranty is going to cost you between about £500 and £700 to put on a car. Now, the first thing to do is to point out what you've found out on the car. Have a chat about what he's willing to do about that. Quite often it's not about price. It's about what the dealer can put on the car very cheaply, because at the end of the day, if he's only paying for parts and his own internal labour, he's more likely to do that. Does it need a cam belt? Big thing. Does it need some tyres? Are they non-branded tyres? Are they matching tyres? Does it need brakes and pads? So if all of those things that you've identified need doing, it may well be an idea to have a chat with whoever's selling the car. If it's a dealer, are they going to do that work before it comes out the door? Or if you're buying privately, what are they going to knock off the price because you're going to have to do that yourself? The key difference between buying obviously at auction or privately compared to a dealership is that you don't have the consumer rights in your favour. The whole point of going to a dealership is that they're complying with the law of the land, and therefore you have more rights, and therefore you will pay a premium for that because it's obviously going to cost them more to put those right in the long term. But certainly at auction, you might not even hear the car running. You might not be able to do the various checks, but you're getting a value on that car based on everyone else not being able to see that as well. So there are various price points, but there are various expectations of what you can expect. General rules of negotiation. The car's on at 10 grand. You want to pay 9 for it. You do not offer him £9,000. In order to get to 9 grand, you've got to start at 8,000. So the way negotiations go is you go, well, I want 10 grand for the car. I said, but it needs this, this and this. Okay, I'll do all of that. No worries. Well, are you satisfied at that point to pay the full dealership price? If you are, sign the check, buy the car, walk away. More or less, when you are buying privately, you have less likelihood of the guy saying, well, yeah, I'm going to put a new set of brakes on it, a new set of tyres, etc, etc. You've got to find the wiggle room in the price to sort that out. So at the end of the day, he's looking 10 grand. You've seen that there is, say, £500–600 worth of work to be done. You've pointed that out. You may go to something like 8 grand. And he goes, oh, no, don't worry about walking away from it. It's only a car at the end of the day, and there'll always be another one. So that's the final ace up your sleeve. It's much more difficult to sell a car than it is to buy it, believe it or not. So therefore, the bias is swayed in the buyer's direction in this particular case. You start at 10 grand. You offer them 8, they go, well, no, I want 9.5. Then you'll go to 8.5 and you'll meet in the difference at 9. You meet somewhere in the middle at 9,000. So if 9 grand was always what you wanted to pay, don't offer him £9,000 because he'll not say yes. He'll go to 9.5 and you'll split the difference at that point. Don't be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get, as they say. So hopefully that helps a little bit as far as negotiating the price is concerned. Warned is forearmed and all the rest of it. You need to know, having done your due diligence, maybe it's the length of the MOT, maybe it's the service history, maybe it's a key. You always find something in a car that hasn't been mentioned either in the description or you found out afterwards. So here we have the RAC warranty supplied by ALA. If you just go to ala.co.uk/warranty, you'll be able to get that. It's available for all cars less than 80,000 miles and less than 8 years old. So let's have a little look and see what we can do. I just use the my Alfa Romeo Giulia as an example. And in fact, I've actually taken out this warranty on the car anyway. There it is, Quadrifoglio bi-turbo. Has your car been serviced in the last 12 months to the manufacturer's guidelines? That is a requirement for it. You're also allowed a buffer of about 500 miles either side of the service mileage and 4 weeks given the time period as well. So that's the kind of the leeway they give you for that. Please confirm to proceed. The vehicle was served at least 12 months ago by a VAT registered dealer. I agree to retain all the service receipts required to validate any future claims, and I agree that failure to comply with the above result may result in claims being rejected. So confirm all of that. You then have 3 standards of cover and time period. So I literally went 1 year at a time because my car is 5 years old. You can include RAC breakdown cover and ALA key care. That's what they're kind of known for. Mostly is covering keys. You've also got to choose your labour rate. If you want your car to be fixed by a main dealer, I would strongly suggest you go £100 plus VAT, that is, so that'll cover up to £120 an hour in the UK. And there's the pay monthly rate. It is £75 or thereabouts, and then followed by 9 payments of 70, or if you pay it in full, 617. You know what, the cover for this is to the full value of the car, and in my case they've quoted up to £42,000. Now the various levels of cover obviously will cover various things. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but it's all available should you want to do that. You've got additional bits and pieces. You'll see here the Premium Plus covers diagnostics as well, and various bits and bobs. Interesting enough though, the Premium Plus is only for cars up to 6 years old with a maximum of 60,000 miles on the clock. That is at the time of policy inception. So there you have it. No need to go to a main dealer. You can buy a used car privately and then put on your own warranty, and as well the cover starts from day one. So then finally, let's have a look at your rights when you've bought a car and it's probably not what you were expecting, or you've discovered a major fault either on the drive home or shortly afterwards. This is where I tell you that if you have bought a car by either privately or by auction, you may stop the video now because that's it, folks. It's all over. This really only applies if you've bought from a dealership. Now, by a dealership, I'm not really talking some back road guy that's presuming to be a trader. All he'll do is just pan you off and ask you to sue him. He may well just bankrupt his little company and walk away, depending on the state of the car. I'm talking more reputable dealers here. Consumer Rights Act 2015. I'm not going to give you any legal advice here. I'm just going to tell you that it exists. I'm going to tell you the rough ways in which it can help you negotiate. Now, all dealers will know about this. I was still buying and selling cars when this came into force, and it was a big deal back then, because at the end of the day, consumers had less rights, or less enforceable rights, should I say, up to that point. 2015, it all changed. Consumer Rights Act 2015. So up to 30 days, if the car is not in reasonable condition that an average person would expect, then you can return the car for a full refund. No questions asked. If you've noticed something that is fundamental to the operation of the car, then you can just pick up the phone and say, I want to return this car, and that's it. I'm using my rights under the Consumer Rights Act 2015. There you go. Your problem, you deal with it. After 30 days, it's a little bit different than that. The dealer has a single shot to put whatever you have found right in the car. Now, I'm not talking about little niggles. I'm not talking about an electric window not working. I'm talking about much more fundamental stuff like gearboxes, like timing chains that are rattling, like something major that affects how you actually can use the car. It affects its usability as a vehicle. Now, they get one shot to put that right. And if they cannot fix it that once, then you have the right within 6 months to get your money back. So within 30 days, you don't really need, they don't get a chance to fix it. Between 30 days and 6 months, they get one shot to fix it. Between 6 months and a year, then they also get a chance to fix the car. But if you want your money back at that point, bear in mind you've owned the vehicle for at least 6 months, you would expect a refund, but that refund value will be decreased effectively by the amount that you've used the car and how the value of that vehicle has been affected. So I'm not saying you jump straight into the Consumer Rights Act. Have a chat with them and see whether they're just going to put it right. If they've sold you a warranty, or if you've got a warranty on the vehicle, the chances are they're going to do the warranty work through warranty anyway. But just in case they haven't sold it with a warranty, or the fact that you've only got a 3-month crappy one that isn't worth the paper it's written on, then it's up to them to sort that out. So there you go. There is the buying a used car advice. I hope it's helped. I'll put various links down below of the various bits and pieces that I use, the websites and the little OBD2 reader, and hopefully that'll help you on your next purchase. All right, all the best now. Bye-bye.